Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May, and today in this Wellness Illuminated episode, we are going to talk about burnout and exhaustion and talk about the connection between our physical selves and that physical manifestation, of course, from the functional medicine perspective, but also that energetic side, that emotional side, that intangible piece that is definitely present and is definitely there, but we might not be able to see it. So let's dive in. So I can't tell you how often that I hear, why am I so exhausted? And I'm doing all the right things. I listen to the show or I take your advice and I implement it, but I'm still so tired. I wake up tired. I have brain fog. I just feel off. And so this is oftentimes definitely related, both men and women actually, to your hormone balance. And I'm not just talking about sex hormones. Actually, I'm most likely not talking about sex hormones specifically. So these would be your stress hormones, meaning your adrenals, your cortisol, that sort of thing. But also what's going on with your gut. So you may or may not notice that your gut is either in sync or out of sync or intermittent, like on and off. So if your body keeps whispering and or yelling at you actually to slow down, while our lives obviously or your life keeps demanding more, then this episode is definitely for you. So we want to start off with the foundation. So I'm calling this the functional medicine truth. So let's start with the science, because burnout isn't just a mindset issue. Obviously, it is a feeling that we feel, but it's also a real biological condition that we can track and treat. So in functional medicine, we look at 4 core systems where burnout shows up the most. And the first piece or the first aspect is the HPA axis dysfunction. So this is your stress command center. Your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenal glands all make up your HPA axis. And when stress becomes chronic, this balance between this axis starts to short circuit, and or I've also like to think of it as the three-legged stool. One of those pieces of that three-legged stool, the triangle, the HPA axis, is cut off or cut short circuit, however you want to say it. And so the other two and or sometimes the one has to work harder to compensate for what is starting to falter. So at first you might feel wired but tired. This is usually a sign that your cortisol is not cycling as it should. So if your cortisol is high, you're buzzing, and your sleep is probably disrupted. So usually what cortisol does is it spikes first thing in the morning when we first wake up, and that's part of that wake up response. And so as soon as the sun hits our eyeballs, and that's why it's so important to have sun actually hit our eyeballs first thing in the morning to help that cortisol spike, and then it slowly drops throughout the rest of the day. But a lot of times, if we're having cortisol dysfunction, then we might have a secondary spike later on in the day. And that's where you're going to get that wired but tired feeling. And or you'll notice that right before bed, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock, depending on your circadian rhythm for sleep, you'll notice that all of a sudden you're awake and you're not sleepy. And, like you're doing all the things to try to get to sleep, feel sleepy, whether that's taking supplements, taking sleeping pills, whatever it is, you're now having to compensate for this secondary spike. And so our bodies can only go on like this for so long before our adrenals start to become truly exhausted, meaning they literally can't keep up. They can't keep pumping out the cortisol. And so when this happens, the cortisol drops. And we can test this and we can track it. So this is actually a real physiological function in the body. And when that happens, our DHEA also drops. And the DHEA is the precursor to all of our sex hormones. So that is actually really important. So a lot of times you'll see this sort of the first leg of that stool being the adrenals with that cortisol drop, but then eventually you'll see it manifesting in your sex hormones, whether that's male or female. So it could be low T for men, or with women, there's obviously a menagerie because we have a much more intricate cascade to deal with. And so, but again, now you're going to start to feel more consistently exhausted. You might feel anxious. You might be moody. You might notice that this is where you're crashing at 3 or 4 p.m. and then having that, again, that secondary spike. Maybe not. I know when I was going through this myself, because I have been through this, I got to the point to where my adrenals were almost completely exhausted, meaning like when I did that 24-hour cortisol collect, or I did a saliva collect for my 24-hour cortisol testing, I didn't have a spike. So I didn't have a morning spike. I didn't have a secondary spike. There were no spikes. And I was like below all of the traditional numbers. And so my little adrenals were just holding on for dear life. Like a total little like engine, like, I think I can, I'm really trying. But they just weren't able to keep up anymore because I had been going on like this for so long. And so I definitely feel you. If you're going through this now, I totally understand. I have been there myself. And so you feel like you're in survival mode, and that you almost feel like probably like no amount of supplements or medication or whatever is really going to help. And to some extent, that actually might be true, because you are in such a state of depletion that it's really kind of what we might call like a subclinical emergency for your body. So it is something to like really take seriously, and to, if you're feeling like this or going through this, or if any of this is ringing true for you, it is time to stop and slow down and like reassess and figure out, okay, what am I doing? How is my body functioning, not functioning? Where is my sleep hygiene? Where am I on all these spectrums of all these things that we talk about all the time? So that's just a smidge about that HPA axis. So I want to move on now to the mitochondrial piece. So mitochondrial fatigue, because this is also an aspect of it. So every single cell in our body has a nucleus, and within that we have mitochondria, and these are the powerhouses of the cell. They make ATP, and the ATP is that energetic force, the energy that our cell uses to function. And if you think about us as human beings, we're essentially one big mass of trillions of cells. And every single one of those cells has to make energy in order to function and to communicate with the other cells. So this is when we have full-on mitochondrial fatigue, you can now see why it can be so prevalent and so noticeable. Because if our cells aren't talking to each other, then what does that affect? Everything. Because what is our body? Essentially, like every single energetic cascade, energetic, a reaction, chemical reaction that's happening in our body, it's all starts with this. How do I want to say this? It all stems from this foundational mechanism, which is ATP being used in our body for energy. So again, super important. But so things like chronic stress, toxins, infections, and nutrient deficiencies actually can put stress on our mitochondria. And again, like making them just work harder. And so eventually they also become fatigued, burnt out, exhausted. Quite literally, there's not enough of all of the precursors and sort of, if you want to call it, the food that they need to do their chemical reactions is not there, because it's being reallocated to other things in your body. And so, again, you're going to start to feel this actual cellular burnout. is also going to show up in your fatigue, in your moodiness, in your anxiety. And if you feel like any slight little thing is going to like either send you down a path of exhaustion and of like, I literally just can't, like, I don't have the energy to even respond to this, or there's something that, you know, could energetically and emotionally and or physically like just sort of set you off into like full blown burnout and shutdown. But we can test for this and we can fix it, we can repair it. So we and I talk about this next piece, chronic inflammation, all the time. Inflammation just isn't that swelling you feel in your joints, or it's not just the headache that you have, or maybe if you're, you know, fighting an infection, the fever. Inflammation is that silent, chronic inflammation is that silent background noise that wrecks your hormone balance, that wrecks your gut, that then wrecks your brain, because we know that almost all of the neurotransmitters that we use in our brain are made in our gut, right? We've said this before, I'll say it again. And so if your gut is not dialed in, then you're going to feel the benefits in your brain, meaning your emotional state, your mental state. And so, and then also our metabolism, because what is our metabolism based out of? It's based off, you know, insulin balance, which is a hormone, but it's also based off cortisol balance, which is a hormone, which then also affects our sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And so all of this is connected. Again, functional medicine, everything's connected. We don't just look at one thing, we look at the entire body, the entire system. And so you'll start to see this chronic inflammation as food sensitivities, as a histamine overexpression, meaning heartburn or canker sores or random nosebleeds or just like GI uneasiness after you eat leftovers. Or if you are super sensitive to mosquitoes, a lot of times you'll notice an overhistamine reaction with those types of things too. And so leaky gut, the expanding of the tight junctions in your GI tract, which then allows things to pass through into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there, causes systemic inflammation, hidden infections, parasites, mold, poor detoxification pathway. So MTHFR SNPs. If you know you have that, or if you're curious, we can always test for that. And then blood sugar irregularities. Are you having crashes? And it was funny, I was just talking to someone this past week, an otherwise young, healthy female, and I say young in her 40s, I consider that young, but she's having these weird blood sugar abnormalities. She does not have diabetes. And so it's like, okay, where is this coming from? Where's the true source of the inflammation that's causing the symptom that you're experiencing? And so this constant inflammatory state keeps our body on high alert. And we can't heal when our body, our system, our mind thinks it's under attack 24/7. Because if we're not sleeping, that's when our body heals, is when we sleep. And so that's why sleep is so foundational. So if we're not sleeping, then our body really does think something's wrong 24/7. So we could say that one of the most overlooked pieces to this puzzle is our nervous system feeling safe, getting out of that fight or flight mode. And a lot of us have been existing in that fight or flight mode so long and so consistently, and unfortunately doing a really damn good job of showing up and masking and looking like we're good, that but meanwhile, our body and our mind does not feel safe. And so again, if we're always bracing for that next emergency, even when you're resting, then you're not actually resting. It's most likely that you're avoiding, numbing, enduring, pushing through. I used the word masking before. All of these things to at least put up a front that we are healthily, regulating, but we're most likely not. And so this is where some other tools can come in: somatic tools, breath work, vagus nerve regulation, and de-stimulation, um, to bring our nervous system back into a state of homeostasis and normoregulation. Because what we really need at the base, at the foundation of all of this, is to allow our body to relearn how to handle the stress. It's been doing it, and our bodies are damn resilient. They can handle a lot. But once we really figure out how to allow our nervous systems to calm down, then the physical healing can really start. Then our bodies come out of fight or flight, come out of survival mode, and allow the healing to start. And so this brings us into, like I alluded at the beginning, to the intangible piece of it, the energetic piece. And so let's look at what functional labs can't tell us about our energetic exhaustion. So burnout often starts in the body long before symptoms show up physically. And I'm going to go through just a couple aspects of how. So the first way is unprocessed trauma. Trauma that isn't resolved gets stuck in our tissues, it gets stuck in our fascia, it gets stuck in our energetic field, and our body literally holds on to the memory. And that frozen survival energy leaks vitality until you feel completely depleted. So you're just leaking your energy out, or you're expending so much of it to maintain that facade of I'm good, I'm cool, I'm all right, when you're really not. And so even if things seem fine on the surface, your body is, again, coping, but not allowing itself to heal because it's trying to manage this unprocessed trauma that we have stored in our body and in our fields. So that's one way that meditation, that finding some sort of coach or energetic practitioner can really help, because it helps transmute and release and move this energy out of where it's stored. So getting it out of that frozen spot and allows it to be discharged, and transmuted. And so that your body can release it, your body can actually relax instead of constantly being in a state of tense. You can truly relax, and your physical body will then, all those mechanisms that your body has to maintain homeostasis will actually allow your body to heal itself. So another aspect is emotional suppression. And so all of those moments you quote unquote held it together, that's great, but all those emotions didn't disappear. They are now, again, embedded as whatever. It doesn't even have to be a traumatic experience, but if there was an emotion that you didn't fully allow yourself to feel and process, then now it is still in your energetic field, in your physical body, in that energetic lattice, so to speak. And so any unfelt grief, anger, rage, resentment, now it is living in your organs, living in your chakras, living in your physical body somewhere. And so the liver, notoriously and classically, is where anger is stored. But a lot of times we can look back and see, like, where is a person manifesting cancer, and look at that, wherever that location is, and associate that with the chakra that it's in. And you will start to see associations, in terms of maybe an experience or an emotional pattern or a thought system or belief system that is also connected to that area. And so how it can become distorted. And again, like eventually, if we don't get it out, if we don't move through it, if we don't process, then it can become things like cancer. It can also manifest itself as a heart attack or a stroke. And so these physical things that happen to us definitely do have an energetic root to them. And so, really, healing, a piece of healing is finally acknowledging these emotions and then releasing them and allowing them to move through you so that your body can again relax and breathe again. Acknowledgement is huge. It can be so healing and so powerful. So, another aspect of this is that a lot of us these days are feeling complete disconnection from ourselves, from our soul purpose, or maybe not even knowing what our soul purpose is. And so we feel tired and exhausted because we're living out of alignment with who we are at our core and or what we're supposed to be doing with our life. And so our job, our obligations, our roles, the personas we've taken on, they don't fit anymore. And or we've created some semblance of who we think we are to appease other people, to appease society, when it's not truly in alignment with our soul. And so our souls know when we're off our path. And that fatigue can be the messenger, it can be the signal. And so we allow ourselves to start asking questions and reevaluating. And when we reconnect with our inner compass and our inner purpose and our true why, then we start self-generating energy. So it's not willpower and you don't have to white knuckle your way through it. It's alignment. And so it naturally flows. Another piece, especially I know a lot of women do this, is chronic overgiving. So this is a big one. Men do it too, but I think I hear most often about it from my female clients, and especially caregivers, empaths, high achieving women that are also parents. There is definitely this piece of chronic overgiving. You have to be everywhere, you have to be everything for everybody else at all times. And so you've poured from your cup until it's completely bone dry. Again, both physically, emotionally, and mentally, and spiritually. Your heart chakra is depleted. Your solar plexus is burnt out. And what's in our solar plexus? Our little adrenal glands that sit on top of our kidneys is like right at that meeting point between the heart chakra and the solar plexus. So again, this is literally the connection between that energetic and physical piece. So by even just starting to ask yourself questions and sort of to self-coach and self-reflect, it's a form of energetic work. And you can start to reclaim your boundaries. You can start to plug the leaks. You can start to replenish and fill from your own cup. And know that, again, KNOW, know that no, NO, is a complete, healthy, and loving sentence. Of course, when said in that way, but that it's okay to say no to things. It's okay to have healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries means saying yes when you really can, but saying no when you really can't. And that's okay. And again, coming from your heart and coming from a place of self-integrity. So I have been working on designing this new program, and I've decided to call it From Burnout to Brilliance. And so my goal with this program was to get real about where a lot of us are. And a lot of us are in burnout. We're in exhaustion. We have overgiven. We've stretched ourselves too thin. And so I wanted to create a program that blends the science, blends the energetic and the soul, and really takes you through this journey of understanding how our body works, but then also with the real healing process. So, this is still going to include nutrient deficiency testing, food sensitivity testing, and toxic burden load. So, this is where the scientific physical piece comes in. So, we're using the science to quantify what we already know is going on energetically. And once we have that, then we can create a plan that is specific to you. So this will be based on these results. This will be your food plan. This will be your supplement plan. And then as a starting point, we dive straight into stress regulation because it's the root of it all. And so before I start you on any gut protocol or any of that, because honestly, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for your test results to come back anyway. So I thought, well, what do we do at the beginning of this? Let's focus on the stress. Let's get this foundational thing under control. So we'll do breath work, we'll do meditation. I will take you through some self-coaching things that, of course, we'll do together, but then you can do on your own on creating these daily rituals and daily routines that really feed your soul to get you, number one, aware of all of the places you're leaking your energy. And so now once you're aware, now you can do something about it. Become aware of what thoughts that you're thinking that are creating these feelings of stress and burnout. Because once you're aware of those thoughts, they're your thoughts. You can change them at any time you want. A belief is just a thought we keep on thinking. So we can change those. You have the power. We have the power. So let's do something about it. So that stress regulation is within the first 1 to 3 weeks while we're waiting on your test results to come back. And so we will be repairing the HPA axis with just these other tools. We'll be lowering systemic inflammation by addressing the stress management. And so we will start signaling safety to the body so you can come out of fight or flight and you can allow your body to start healing itself from the first week of the program. The next phase is when we get your test results back. And now we know when we can build, again, the food plan, the supplement plan. So we have the tools to support your adrenals, your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones, your stress hormones. We will also go into a gut healing protocol, rebalancing that microbiome. And then once we've healed your gut, then we will do a detox. And along the way, because of all these things, your body will naturally be detoxing itself. But the thing that we've learned in functional medicine is that if you do a detox without having a stress management program or tools, and if you do a detox without having a healthy gut, then that's when you get the die-off symptoms and you actually feel worse instead of better. And so I don't want you to feel worse. I want you to feel better straight from the get-go, fast. And so this is how this is going to happen. So after the gut healing protocol, then we can do a detox, drain those pathways, unload that toxic burden because your body is already healthier. Your body is already dampened down the inflammation. You've restored and healed your gut enough to handle a detox. And so then we can also then focus also on this mitochondrial and nutrient repair. And so this is where you have done some foundational work, again, with the stress management and the gut healing protocol. And now this detox can really take your healing journey to the next level and really unload all of those microplastics and all of those extra chemicals that are really weighing you down and slowing down your chemical processes. And so also, I'll be taking you through some intuitive healing exercises, some Reiki infused healings within the group program. We are really going to focus on releasing old patterns, bringing awareness to the old patterns, and empowering you to start deciding for yourself what you want your new patterns to be. What do you want your new patterns to look like? Again, you get to decide. Have you even ever asked yourself like what you really want it to look like and how you really want it to be and unfold? So we'll go through that. Again, that is part of energy healing. So all of these things are very tangible and they're very much rooted and grounded in real things that you can do for yourself. And there is this call to reconnect with your purpose. Figure out what your purpose is, your power, your joy. Break free from the burnout cycle at the root of all of this and really begin to live in alignment with who you really are. And so this isn't about fixing something that's wrong. This is about healing and saying yes to the healing and remembering who you are at your most brilliant self, meaning like glowing with brilliance, like a beautiful crystal or diamond, like when it's in the light and it's completely polished and cleared off, it's just brilliant. It glows. And so I want to help create that for you. And so I've created 2 different pathways because there is an option to keep going if you're someone out there that is struggling again with hormone balance or insulin resistance or any sort of pre-diabetes. Then we have sort of a second level after that detox. So there's the 12-week foundational journey to reset the system. So that's the stress reset, the gut healing program, and then the detox. And then beyond that is that deeper transformational focus of we'll do a Dutch test to assess where your hormones are. And then also to see, what else is going on. Maybe we need to focus more on your thyroid. Maybe we need to focus more again on your insulin and your glycemic management within your body. And so there's this extra piece that if you feel called, you can sign up for. You can sign up for it at the beginning, so it'll be a full 5-month journey. Or you can do the first 12 weeks and then you can add it on later if you feel called or feel like your body is needing not only like the continuation of the protocols and the personalization testing. So all of this includes the cost of your testing. And I have partnered with a company called Thea to sell us at a super deep discount continuous glucose monitors that we're definitely going to use as part of the first month. So that cost is also included in the program. But then if you want to keep subscribing to the CGM, then you definitely can, again, at a super deep discount. And if you want to talk more about that in a discovery call with me, I would love to. But that's going to be really exciting because the Thea company, they with all the data that they gather within their platform, they can spit out a full metabolic sort of profile for you, not only based on your CGM data, and they have a way to take pictures of your food, and they have AI built into their app. So all you have to do is take a picture and it will auto blow in to the platform, the nutrient content, your macros, the calories, all that stuff. So it's super, super powerful. So you would also put your sleep data in there. So we're able to gather all of this data. It's specific and personal to you. And we can track it over time. So we can track it over the 3 months of the 12 weeks or the full 5 months. But it's there. Knowledge is power. So let's utilize it and implement it and maximize it to as much as we can to get as much as we can out of it. And so we can learn about you can learn about you, and we can figure out like, okay, well, what's the equation to get you back or to get you where? Maybe not even back. Maybe there's a new definition of you that you want to create. And so what is it going to take to get you there? And we can figure that out together with all of these aspects and all of these tools put together in this beautiful program. So if you're interested in that and you want to learn more, head on over to drlaramay.com/disco, like the dance, but it's really an abbreviation for discovery call, because you can sign up to do a quick discovery call one-on-one with me, and we can talk about where you are, if this program's a good fit, and when it's going to start, and how we can get you feeling better fast moving forward. And so I really encourage you, if you're curious at all, you can go over to drlaramay.com, and there's plenty of information explaining a lot more about this, but I feel like I gave you a pretty good overview today. So thank you for listening and joining me today. And next week, or the next week in the Wellness Illuminated episode, we're actually going to dive into what I call the sunshine protocol. So why light, rhythm, and sleep are your most underrated medicines. So until then, breathe deep, protect your energy with a beautiful ball of light. And remember, you were never meant to just survive. You were born to be radiant and brilliant, shining bright. So thank you, everybody. I'll catch you on the next episode.